Picture this. You're scrolling through social media and see someone sharing their latest breakdown, their ambitious new business plan, or their deepest spiritual revelation, all in the same day. Your first instinct might be to admire their openness, but what if I told you they're actually sabotaging their own happiness? What if the secret to genuine contentment lies not in sharing everything, but in carefully guarding certain aspects of your life? In a world obsessed with transparency and constant connection, the most successful and genuinely happy people understand something the rest of us don't. True power comes from knowing what not to share. You've been conditioned to believe that openness equals authenticity, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Some of life's most transformative lessons come from understanding the art of selective silence. Today, you'll discover 3 crucial things that, when kept private, can completely transform your existence from one of constant seeking to one of unshakable inner peace. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts, but battle-tested principles that have guided wise individuals for centuries. They can shield you from unnecessary drama, protect your precious energy, and help you build the kind of authentic happiness that doesn't crumble when others disappoint you. The philosophy of true happiness isn't about collecting experiences to broadcast or moments to turn into content. It's about cultivating an inner sanctuary that remains beautiful and intact, regardless of who's watching. Joseph Draws, in his timeless exploration of human contentment, reveals that genuine happiness is never dependent on external circumstances, but on the conscious choices we make about what we reveal and what we preserve. Think about the people in your life who radiate genuine peace and confidence. They're never the ones constantly updating everyone about their latest crisis, announcing every ambitious goal, or spilling their deepest thoughts to anyone who will listen. Instead, they possess something rare in our oversharing culture: quiet dignity. They have a self-contained happiness that doesn't require constant validation, sympathy, or applause from others. This isn't emotional unavailability or coldness. This is wisdom in action. These individuals understand what ancient philosophers knew, but modern society has forgotten: that mystery creates respect, privacy preserves power, and silence often speaks louder than words. They've learned that your personal business is exactly that, personal. And in keeping it that way, they've unlocked a level of freedom and contentment that those who overshare will never experience. But how do you join their ranks? How do you break free from the modern compulsion to share every thought, feeling, and experience? The answer lies in understanding these 3 fundamental categories of information that should remain within your inner circle, no matter how tempting it might be to share them with the world. The first thing you must stop sharing with others is your inner struggles, misfortunes, and complaints. Before you protest that this sounds cold or antisocial, understand this: there's a world of difference between seeking genuine support when needed and falling into what philosophers call the querulous spirit, that exhausting habit of treating everyone around you as an audience for your suffering. Here's what happens when you constantly broadcast your struggles. You're not actually processing them, you're performing them. Every time you retell your story of hardship to a new person, you're not healing, you're rehearsing your pain. You're unconsciously training your brain to identify with problems rather than solutions, with victimhood rather than resilience. Think about someone you know who always has a crisis to share. How do you feel when you see their name on your phone? If you're honest, there's probably a little part of you that sighs, knowing you're about to become an unpaid therapist for the next 30 minutes. This person has unknowingly trained everyone around them to see them as perpetually struggling, perpetually needy, perpetually one step away from falling apart. Now imagine the opposite: someone who faces challenges but processes them internally before seeking specific, targeted advice. When they do reach out, it's purposeful and solution-focused. These people command respect because they've demonstrated that they can handle life's inevitable difficulties without making everyone else responsible for their emotional well-being. Consider how radically different your relationship with adversity becomes when you handle it privately first. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone to share your latest setback with your group chat, you sit with the discomfort. You process it internally. You ask yourself hard questions. What is this situation teaching me? How can I grow from this? What specific steps can I take to improve my circumstances? What resources do I already have that I haven't utilized? This private processing time is where real strength is built. It's in those quiet moments of struggle, when no one is watching and no one is offering sympathy, that you discover your true capacity for resilience. You learn to be your own source of comfort, your own problem solver, your own emotional support system. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this principle intimately. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote extensively about his struggles and challenges. But he wrote them in a private journal, not as public announcements. His meditations were never intended for publication. They were his personal workshop for developing inner strength. He understood that true power comes from within, not from the sympathy or validation of others. When you keep your struggles private, something remarkable happens. You're forced to develop internal resources you didn't know you had. You stop looking outside yourself for solutions and start finding them within. You develop what the Stoics called an inner citadel, a fortress of peace and strength that external circumstances cannot breach. This doesn't mean you become a hermit or refuse all help. It means you become incredibly selective about who you share your vulnerabilities with and why. You learn to distinguish between productive conversations that lead to actual solutions and unproductive venting sessions that keep you stuck in negative cycles. You realize that most people, despite their good intentions, are not equipped to solve your problems, and that's not their job anyway. Moreover, when you stop broadcasting every struggle, people start taking you more seriously when you do need support. Your requests for help carry weight because they're rare and specific. You're no longer the person who cries wolf with every minor setback. Instead, you become someone whose challenges are met with genuine concern and effective assistance because your track record shows you've already tried to handle things yourself. The second critical thing to guard carefully is your ambitions, your hunger for recognition, and your pride. In our social media-obsessed culture, this advice might sound almost heretical. We're told to share our goals, announce our dreams, build our personal brands, and celebrate every small win publicly. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Constantly broadcasting your ambitions is one of the fastest ways to sabotage them. There is a profound psychological phenomenon at play here that most people never recognize. When you share your goals and ambitions publicly, your brain gets a hit of satisfaction and social recognition that can actually reduce your motivation to achieve those goals. It's as if your mind mistakes the applause for the accomplishment, the announcement for the achievement. The Tao Te Ching captured this wisdom thousands of years ago. He who knows does not speak. He who speaks does not know. This isn't about being secretive for the sake of mystery. It's about understanding that true power and achievement often work best in silence, away from the distracting noise of others' opinions and expectations. Think about the most genuinely successful people in your life, not the ones who perform success on social media, but the ones who actually live it. They rarely announce their next big move before they make it. They don't seek validation for their goals before pursuing them. They understand that real achievement speaks for itself, and that constantly talking about what you're going to do often substitutes for actually doing it. Here's what happens when you constantly broadcast your ambitions. You become addicted to the recognition rather than focused on the work. You start choosing goals based on how impressive they'll sound to others rather than what actually aligns with your values and capabilities. Your ego becomes invested in maintaining an image of success rather than achieving actual success. Worse, you make yourself vulnerable to what I call ambient negativity, the subtle doubts, criticisms, and energy-draining comments that well-meaning people often share when you announce big plans. Even people who care about you might inadvertently plant seeds of doubt or distraction that can derail your focus. Consider how different your relationship with achievement becomes when you pursue your goals in relative silence. Without the pressure of public expectation, you're free to pivot, experiment, and even fail without having to explain yourself to anyone. You can take the time you need to build something solid rather than rushing to deliver on promises you made to impress others. This principle extends beyond just professional ambitions to every area where pride and recognition are involved. When you stop seeking external validation for your choices, your progress, and your achievements, something powerful happens. You develop genuine self-confidence rather than the fragile ego that depends on others' approval. You learn to find satisfaction in the work itself, in the process of growth and creation, rather than in the applause that may or may not come. You discover that the most meaningful achievements are often the ones that no one else sees or understands. The internal victories, the character development, the quiet moments of breakthrough that happen when you're alone with your goals. This doesn't mean you can never share good news or celebrate milestones with people who matter to you. It means you don't need a constant stream of external validation to feel good about your path. It means your sense of worth isn't tied to others' recognition of your efforts. It means you can pursue what truly matters to you rather than what looks impressive to others. The most successful people understand this paradox. The less you need recognition, the more likely you are to receive it. The less you announce your plans, the more impressive your results become. The less you seek validation, the more authentic confidence you develop. This is the quiet power of ambitious people who actually achieve their goals rather than just talking about them. The third and most crucial thing to protect fiercely is your profound wisdom, your true nature, and your deepest feelings. In a culture that mistakes oversharing for authenticity and emotional dumping for depth, this principle might seem almost revolutionary. But here's what most people never realize. Your innermost self is not a public commodity, and treating it as such is one of the fastest ways to lose touch with who you really are. Your deepest insights about life, your most profound realizations, your core beliefs and values, these are not conversation starters or social media content. They are sacred treasures that lose their transformative power when scattered carelessly to anyone willing to listen. Nietzsche captured this perfectly when he observed that deepest feelings crave silence, and that our most profound experiences should be held sacred, not violated by casual disclosure. Think about the people you know who seem to have an opinion about everything, who share every spiritual insight they've ever had, who turn every deep conversation into a performance of their wisdom. How do you feel around them? Probably exhausted. There's something deeply off-putting about people who wear their depth as a costume rather than carrying it as an internal source of strength. Now consider the opposite. People who clearly have rich inner lives but don't feel compelled to broadcast every thought and feeling. They listen more than they speak. When they do share something meaningful, it carries weight because it's rare and intentional. You find yourself leaning in when they talk because you know they don't waste words or cheapen profound experiences by turning them into casual anecdotes. There's immense power in maintaining what I call inner sovereignty, a private space that belongs entirely to you, where you can process life's complexities without feeling compelled to turn every insight into a shareable moment. This inner sanctuary becomes your source of strength, your place of renewal, your connection to what truly matters beyond the noise of daily life. When you share your deepest feelings and insights indiscriminately, something tragic happens. You dilute their power and meaning. Sacred moments become casual stories. Profound spiritual experiences get reduced to social media posts. Life-changing realizations become dinner party entertainment. In doing so, you rob yourself of the opportunity to fully integrate these experiences into your being. The metaphor that captures this perfectly is the difference between a shallow stream that babbles constantly for everyone to hear and a deep well that holds its water in silence until someone truly needs it. Your inner life should be like that well, deep, quiet, and reliable, rather than like the stream that broadcasts every feeling to anyone passing by. This principle becomes especially important as you develop genuine wisdom through life experience. The insights you gain from real hardship, the understanding you develop through years of trial and error, the hard-won knowledge about human nature and life's complexities. These aren't meant to be teaching moments for everyone you meet. They're meant to guide your own life and, perhaps very selectively, to help others who have genuinely earned access to your inner world. Moreover, there's a practical reason for protecting your deepest self. Most people aren't equipped to handle or appreciate profound truths. When you share your most meaningful insights with someone who can't understand or value them, you often end up feeling misunderstood, dismissed, or even mocked. This can create a painful disconnect between your inner experience and your outer relationships. The people who truly know and understand you should earn that privilege through demonstrated consistency, loyalty, and wisdom. Your deepest self shouldn't be accessible to casual acquaintances, fair-weather friends, or even family members who haven't shown they can handle such intimate knowledge with care and respect. There is also profound wisdom in recognizing that some truths simply cannot be expressed in words. The most meaningful spiritual insights, the deepest experiences of love or loss, the moments of transcendent understanding, these often lose their essence when we try to capture them in language. Some experiences are meant to be lived and integrated, not shared and explained. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally unavailable or never sharing meaningful parts of yourself. It means developing the maturity to be intentional about what you share, when you share it, and with whom. It means understanding that your inner life is precious and deserves protection. It means recognizing that maintaining some mystery doesn't make you less authentic. It makes you more selective about who gets to experience your authenticity. The result of living this way is a kind of quiet confidence that can't be shaken by others' opinions because it isn't dependent on their understanding. You develop an inner compass that guides your decisions based on your own deepest knowing rather than the crowd's expectations. You become someone whose rare words carry weight, whose presence has depth, and whose friendship is treasured because it's not cheapened by oversharing. This is the path of the wise, to know deeply, to feel profoundly, and to share selectively. In a world full of noise, be the person who understands the power of silence. In a culture of oversharing, be the one who knows the value of mystery. In an age of performance, be someone whose authenticity runs so deep that it doesn't need constant display. Living according to these principles requires tremendous courage and discipline, especially in a world that has convinced us that transparency equals authenticity and oversharing equals connection. You'll face pressure from people who mistake your discretion for coldness, your privacy for secretiveness, your quiet confidence for arrogance. This is precisely when you must trust in the wisdom of ages and the strength of your own inner knowing. The path of selective sharing isn't about becoming emotionally unavailable or cutting yourself off from meaningful human connection. It's about developing the rare maturity to understand that not every feeling needs immediate expression. Not every struggle requires a public audience, and not every achievement demands external applause. It's about finding genuine contentment in your own company, real satisfaction in your own progress, and lasting peace in your carefully cultivated inner landscape. As you begin implementing these principles, you'll notice profound shifts that might surprise you. First, your relationships will naturally become deeper and more meaningful. Why? Because you'll start attracting people who appreciate your substance, rather than your constant availability as an emotional dumping ground. People will begin to respect you more because you're not always accessible, always sharing, always seeking their input on your life decisions. Your emotional life will stabilize in ways you never expected. When your sense of well-being isn't constantly subject to others' opinions and reactions. When your self-worth isn't tied to their validation of your struggles or achievements, you develop what the ancient philosophers called emotional sovereignty. You become the ruler of your own inner kingdom rather than a subject constantly seeking approval from others. Perhaps most importantly, your sense of self will become unshakable because it will be built on internal foundations rather than the shifting sands of external validation. You'll discover that you don't need others to understand your journey for it to be meaningful. You don't need them to validate your struggles for them to make you stronger. You don't need their applause for your achievements to matter. This transformation isn't always easy. There will be moments when you want to share that struggle, announce that goal, or seek sympathy for that setback. But each time you choose discretion over disclosure, silence over oversharing, you're building something invaluable: genuine self-reliance and authentic inner peace. You'll discover what the great philosophers knew, but modern culture has forgotten: that happiness truly is an art that can be cultivated from within. The quiet life isn't a lesser life. It's often far richer and more satisfying than the performance-based existence most people live. Protecting your inner world isn't selfishness. It's the highest form of self-respect. Discretion isn't deception. It's the mark of someone who understands the true value of their inner treasures. The goal isn't to become a hermit or to eliminate meaningful connections from your life. The goal is far more powerful: to become so secure in yourself, so content with your own company, and so clear about your own values that you can engage with others from a position of strength rather than need. When you're not constantly seeking validation, sympathy, or applause, you become free to offer something far more valuable: genuine love, authentic support, and hard-won wisdom. This is perhaps the greatest paradox of mature living. The less you need from others, the more you have to give them. The more private you become about your struggles, the stronger you become in facing them, and the more helpful you can be to others facing similar challenges. The less you broadcast your achievements, the more meaningful they become to you personally. The more carefully you guard your inner wisdom, the more powerfully it can guide not just your own life, but your ability to genuinely help others when they truly need it. In a world drowning in noise, choose to be someone who understands the profound power of silence. In a culture addicted to oversharing, be the rare person who knows that mystery and discretion create respect and depth. In an age where everyone is constantly seeking external validation, be the exceptional individual who has found genuine contentment within. This is the path to what the philosophers called the quiet and happy life, not because you're avoiding the world or hiding from its challenges, but because you've learned to navigate life with wisdom, inner strength, and an unshakable sense of your own worth that doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion or understanding. Your happiness doesn't require others to understand your struggles. Your success doesn't need their validation. Your wisdom doesn't need their recognition. Your worth doesn't depend on their approval. When you truly understand this, you'll have found something that no external circumstance can touch: authentic peace, genuine confidence, and the kind of happiness that comes from within and can never be taken away. This is the art of being truly happy, and it begins with the wisdom to know what not to share with the world around you. Guard these three things well, and you'll discover a richness of life that those who share everything will never know.